Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Why Nobody Plays video. And in today's video, we're gonna be discussing the man, the symbiote himself, Red Goblin. Now Red Goblin, he's pretty much a case where you take one disappointment and combine it with another, and then you get an even bigger disappointment. Now by no means is this character useless. Every champion pretty much has their own uses. However, take away the synergies, I'm looking at you, Odin, and pretty much what you have as a standalone character is this. But before we actually discuss why nobody plays him, let's actually go over his overall kit.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
Now Red Goblin is fully immune to Incinerate as well as Power Burn, and when he's fighting a Spider-Verse champion, he reduces the ability accuracy of passive evade effects by 100%. After winning a fight with him, you gain a Bloodlust for the remainder of the quest, and if you defeat a Spider-Verse champion, you gain an additional Bloodlust. You lose one of these when you're defeated, and the max that you can actually have of these is 5. Now onto the Frenzy. While the opponent has less than 15% health remaining, Red Goblin will enter the Frenzy. Each Bloodlust that he has will increase his threshold by a flat 10%, reaching a maximum of 65%. Once you're in Frenzy, you also trigger a True Sense buff, which bypasses the effects of Miss as well as Auto Block, and if Frenzy ends, this buff is pretty much removed. You also gain some attack rating, plus an additional amount for each Bloodlust that you actually have. However, each stack will suffer 15 reduced potency. Now moving on to the symbiote buffs, he pretty much has 3 buffs that activate depending on which move you actually ended the combo with before activating the special attack. The buff will last for 15 seconds, but will start paused, however they're unpaused when a second buff is triggered. Now if you end the combo with a light attack, you'll gain an Energize, granting 25% combat power rate, and if you end with a medium attack, you'll be granted a Fury which grants an additional amount of attack rating. As for the heavy attack, you gain an Aptitude which grants 120% increased Fury, Precision as well as Armor Up potency, and Aptitudes will increase the potency of the Energized buffs by 75%. As for his bombs, he throws these on his heavy attacks as well as his special 2, and for each energized buffs, he inflicts a power drain, draining 10% max power over 15 seconds, and for each fury buff, he inflicts an armor break, reducing armor by a certain amount for 15 seconds, and all the other buffs will inflict an incinerate, dealing a certain amount of energy damage over 15 seconds, and these incinerates will prevent perfect block as well as reduce the block proficiency by minus 50%. As for the heavy attacks, the bomb debuffs that will be inflicted by it will have 65% reduced duration. Now moving on to the special attacks. Special 1. His symbiote attacks will deal a burst of direct damage equal to 100% of the damage dealt, and the potency is increased by 100% for each unique debuff on the opponent. The blast at the end of it will also inflict an incinerate, dealing a certain amount of energy damage over 20 seconds. And as for the special 2, his bombs will inflict bomb debuffs, and after the burner effect, all 3 hits will deal a burst of energy damage. Moving on to the special 3. It'll activate Frenzy for 30 seconds. It'll also inflict 7 random Carnage Bomb debuffs, which have 50% increased duration. Moving on to the Awakened ability, his special attacks will generate an additional symbiote buff with 90 to 35% reduced potency. And that's pretty much the whole kit for Red Goblin. He's pretty much focused on dealing a lot of damage. He has the ability to bypass miss, as well as auto block, and he has a ton of incinerate damage depending on the amount of buffs that you have. Appearance wise, he's a really cool looking character, His mouth is pretty much on fire the whole time, and his head is kind of shaped like a scorpion tail. Overall, I really like his design as well as his animations when you're actually attacking the opponent. They feel fluid and the special attacks definitely feel strong. However, there are some issues. Which brings us to the topic of why nobody plays him. Now, the first issue that I do have with this champion as a whole is most of his damage pretty much comes from the incinerate effects. However, if you're running him alone, you'll pretty much have 1 to 2 buffs for most of the time, meaning that you'll be able to dish out less damage. Now, of course, we do have Odin, which gives him availability to more buffs, meaning that he can inflict more incinerates. However, in situations where you actually can't bring Odin, you're pretty much gonna be losing out on a ton of damage to a point where it might have just been better to bring another champion instead of him. Now, another problem that I do have with him is the way he gets his buff is pretty much from activating a special attack, and it's indefinitely paused until you actually get a second one, which in my opinion is just horrible. I wonder who even thought of this. For most other cosmic champions that are symbiote type, they pretty much build up their buffs and keep them, and have other ways of actually utilizing them. However, for this dude, he can't stack that many of them, and he's very synergy reliant, like I said. But in my opinion, he's a pretty solid champion, and if you do run him with the Odin pre-fights, he turns into an absolute beast. However, in situations where you can't bring Odin, you're pretty much gonna be in a terrible position. I feel like the issue with the buffs is pretty much all that's holding him back. Maybe if he could get his own buffs after every 10 seconds like Venom does or something like that, he'd be much better, but who knows. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments who next I should make a video on, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!